Happy Wine Wednesday. Give us just a second to make sure that we are in fact live. Let's see, let's see. And it looks like we are live on YouTube. Let me turn that down. You don't want to hear my YouTube. And let me make sure that we are live on. Okay, yeah, I don't know what's going on. We had more technical difficulties. What do you know? Big shocker. Let me make sure we're good. Yep, we're good on Facebook. All right then. Well then, happy Wine Wednesday yet again. Hope that your week was fantastic, that your Wednesday was even better. Happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate. And I'm sipping on some Chardonnay tonight. I don't know what's gotten into me, y'all. I have turned into this white wine chick. Who knew? What do you know? Miss Holly and Sir Ray is already with me. And tonight, due to the holidays, we just didn't get the topic out soon enough, so we are doing open chat. So you got any questions? Now's the time to ask. I believe Holly has someone that wants to ask some questions, and you in the comments. Anybody watching, post your questions. We'll answer them to the best of our ability. And Holly, really quickly, let's start off by you telling me about your babies. I hear you have some news.
Yeah, I do. I was actually able to sell all of my first batch. I found an aquarium specialty pet store. They actually do tank design and maintenance. They're about 2 hours away from me. And so it's a family run business. Sounds like he knows what he's doing. He asked me some legitimate questions about the seahorses, so I have a good feeling about him. So on Friday, I'm going to bag up the four that I'm selling and drive them 2 hours to this place and meet this guy and hopefully work out, some business relationship stuff for the future as well. I have a good feeling about it.
Nice. And is this the same gentleman that's wanting to jump in today or different?
No, no,
Okay.
this is the guy that's jumping in. I talked to him on, he was on the Seahorse source Facebook
Group, gotcha.
and, had some questions and was private messaging me. So I told him about our meeting tonight, might want to join. So he might be waiting now. He just messaged me, see you soon. So hopefully he'll be on shortly.
I
If
don't
you
have
see him and you're
anybody.
waiting.
I don't have anybody waiting yet. I absolutely will admit him if he jumps in, and if you come to the comments, of course, we'll answer questions there too. Of course, but congratulations, Holly. That's
Yeah.
so awesome. Hey, to anybody watching, I noticed there's a lag. Not sure what that's about. I apologize. We'll try to fix it next time, I guess. Oh, you know what? I have one
Yeah,
thought.
Sam's asking to join.
Okay, Miss Sam. Yes, of course you can join. I will very quickly. Sorry for the delay, guys, here, but I'm going to message her the link. Miss Sam, if you want to join, absolutely. We'd love to have you. And I just have to pull it up. So, dead airtime here. But hey, this is open chat. So, hey, Ray, tell me what's going on with you with your. The last time you actually talked about your seahorses, you were telling us that there was a problem, and we posted about the seahorse with the jaw issue. And Dan was pretty convinced that it wasn't bacterial, and it's nobody could figure out what was going on and what's gone on since then.
I'm down to one now, but she's developed the same problem that the male had with that jaw, with the trigger that sticks down and it'll stay stuck down for a long time, but it'll go back up. But what doesn't change is along from the end of the snout back to the trigger, um, every time it takes in water, um, it looks like a bow underneath the jaw, like a bone that's on there, and it bows downwards and then comes back up, comes down and then back up, uh, and uh, it's going along with the respiration rate,
Hmm.
and that's what happened with the male. And the male quit eating, And after a long time, I euthanized it.
Mm.
And now this female has the same thing, and um, I tried antibiotics, but it wasn't making a difference. Um, the antibiotics were expired. They were about 8 months expired, but I don't think that in itself should have been a problem. I've used expired meds before, and they worked.
And it
So
just wasn't
I
working.
think Dan's right. I don't think it is. I don't think it's antibiotic, or I don't think it's um,
Bacterial.
yeah, yeah. I don't think it's bacterial. And
Do you,
also, when I put this one in a dip, same thing as with the male. There is no reaction in the freshwater dip. Nothing exploding off like you normally would expect to see. So I'm at loss to know what it is. So I'm holding on for a little bit longer here, but I think I'm going to end up having to euthanize her too. It tears me apart sitting there watching them when I know the others I haven't been able to save.
right.
Uh, and I don't know if they're in pain or suffering in any way. So, but
Anytime you have a seahorse that's having a problem, it's terrible on the human for sure. I
yeah,
think that that's really, admirable. It says a lot about you that it concerns you so much that they might, be feeling the pain and etc. I've been there. I totally get it. Hey, Holly, is your friend's name Chris? Ask him if he's using the Chris.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Alrighty. Well, welcome, Sir Chris. When he joins, tell him he just has to add audio, um, and we'll see his questions. But anyhow, Ray, yeah, and Sam's trying to come in. Cool, yay!
well, if I have to get rid of this one, then I'm down to just the abdominalis left.
Really, so all the barb warrior.
Have them downstairs. Well,
Mm.
there's Sam.
All right, Miss Sam's in. Guys, again, I'm so sorry about the lag. I'm not sure what that's about. I'll have to work on it for next week. Actually, last week we had Ryan Nash, Farm Boy, and Dee from Brooklyn on, and they kind of taught me a few things about some software, so we might do a switch up. That won't affect anybody using Zoom, so you guys won't have to change anything, but it's just maybe better software that might work better and not lag as much. Hey, Sam, what's up?
Hey, hot, stinking hot here. Jesus, melting.
Gotcha.
Aussie summer coming on strong. About 100 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday, so a few degrees cooler today. But yeah, fucking hot.
I spent an hour and a half yesterday shoveling and snow blowing.
Oh, we should mate and have daiquiris. I'll bring the mangoes.
Love it.
I don't drink if you got alcohol-free ones.
I'll make you virgin ones, mate. No worries. I got a good blender.
Yeah, I haven't had a drink since Thursday night before Christmas of '91.
Wow, good effort.
Sorry,
I
guys.
can't say that myself.
I never got myself to the point where I had to do it.
I'm telling my kiddos to get off their phones and such just to make sure that it's not my internet causing this problem. Like, guys, I pay for like serious U-verse AT&T internet, so this is not cool. Sorry about the lag. I'll quit saying it though. It is what it is. We're still chatting, and it's a great chat. Okay, so go ahead.
He's in the waiting room.
Well, Holly?
I said, Chris says he's in the waiting room. Did you
Okay.
let him in?
I tried to, and then it showed up as he was trying to come in twice. So let's see if he can join now. I just admitted him.
Here it is.
And I will, guys.
Yeah, nice and cool and toasty.
There he
I
is.
see it.
All right. And guys, we will ask the questions that I said in the description too. We're going to talk about DIY projects and such too. But welcome, Chris. He might be hooking up audio. If you have any trouble, Chris, you do have to allow audio and video in order to be in the Zoom, but in the video. But if this doesn't work out,
Maybe he doesn't know that you have to click on that audio button to
right.
connect with audio.
Right. So click on the audio button, connect by computer, or if you're on phone, it's a little more complicated. Let me know where you're at and we'll try to walk you through it. But we're glad to have you. Oh, I hear something. Hello, Chris.
Yeah, he just muted,
Okay. Oh,
so it
that's
is connected now.
Yep. See, we need to give. I'm the one running this stuff, aren't I? We need to give a little better instruction. When you want to talk, you go to the. If you're on a computer, you go to the bottom left-hand side, and there's mute and video, and that way you can start and stop your video feed. So you can. You're muted right now, and your video is not showing. But if you want to show your video or audio, you got to unmute yourself. So click it on and off. And we're glad to have you. If you still have trouble, message Holly. And if we can't figure it out, then I will absolutely make sure we at least look at the comments in the, or the questions in the comment section. Sorry, guys. My computer's kind of going wacko right now. And anyways, everybody on
Chris is
YouTube.
unmuted now.
Okay, awesome. Welcome, guys. And welcome, Chris. Can't hear him.
Maybe. All right.
Can't you, Chris?
Hey, Sam, you're on a phone, aren't you?
Yeah, iPhone.
How do you have to turn on your audio?
I got the Zoom app on my phone from Magna, and it's just got a little switch there when you first go on. When you first link in, it says to turn on audio and video. That's your choices there.
Yep. And
Or,
again, sorry, go ahead.
hang on, let me play with this.
I was going to say
If
also, Chris, go ahead. Sorry,
if
Sam.
you scroll the screen to the left, move your finger, from left hand side to right hand side of the screen, and they.
Okay, she cut out. We'll get her further instruction, guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. But I was gonna say, also, Chris, if you're on computer, tell us if you're on computer or if you're on phone, and we'll try to walk you through it for sure. And I'm trying to figure out if we're actually fully frozen.
Comes
Sure.
up.
Okay, there's Sam again.
So you were telling Holly that you have some questions.
Yeah, well, I bought a pair of Seahorses, Hippocampus erectus, but one of them just died about a week ago, and I was told at the pet store that first of all that they were captive bred. Then they told me to keep them at 76, 78 degrees, which I've been doing that for the past month since I've had them. One of the Seahorses, I believe to have a pouch, so I'm going to say it was a male. And it was swimming more to the right side, more to the left side. I took videos to the pet store. They told me that it was doing fine, nothing to worry about. That's practically normal. And the Seahorse ended up dying, unfortunately, about a week ago.
We need way more details to have a guess at that. Sorry, like parameters, things like that, where they eat.
Unfortunately, Sam is in Australia, so I think it's just her cutting off, but everything keeps freezing, so hopefully not. I'm gonna keep rolling it, guys, hoping that it comes back. Ray, are you still with me?
What other
I
behaviors were they
think
doing? Or look
he
at a
was
video.
telling me
Unmute
today
yourself.
he's thinking because they'll only eat live food that the pet shop was wrong and they're actually wild caught is
Ooh.
another issue.
So the seahorses he got would only eat live feed?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And also
Well,
he's keeping them in a tank temperature too warm because that's what the store told him.
Yes.
Yeah.
First thing you got to learn is there's very, very few stores in North America that know much, if anything, about proper seahorse care.
No, in the world, right?
Right.
Well, I didn't want to go
It's
too far. I'll let you cover that other half.
But no, that's you guys are
It's the
making
same here.
you guys are making a great point. Your best bet is to try to get information. I'm so glad, Chris, to hear that you're part of Seahorse Sources group now, because that's like a wealth of information in that group. And yeah, the two things that caught me at first when you were talking is we keep seahorses typically beneath a temperature of 74 degrees, and that's because it helps with bacterial load. It just helps in general. And then also the fact that the seahorse,
I even get colder.
yeah, or colder, right? But the seahorses weren't eating frozen foods. That's a real stickler. What did they tell you when you bought them, Chris? That they were
At first, the person's name who buys animals, marine animals. I first asked another associate, and he told me no, they're captive bred and they're eating PE myces, which I tried feeding them that as well, and that didn't work. And when I asked the person who buys them, he told me like, well, I'm not sure if they're captive bred or if they're wild caught. Like, well, how do
mm,
you not know when you're the one who's buying them? What does that say?
One thing, a tip for you, Chris. Next time you're ever looking at seahorses, ask to see them eat in the shop. And if they ain't going to eat there, they're not going to do it in your tank. I've had a lot of experience with wild caught seahorses in Australia here, and honestly, mate, avoid it. It's a nightmare unless you're like me and you can catch your own live food. So that'd be my biggest thing for you is watch them eat. Make sure they're doing it.
And
right.
hopefully we'll be able to transition them onto something like the Hikari mices, which is a bit smaller than the PE. And these seahorses won't be that mature yet. So it's quite possible that they may have at one time taken them, and maybe you had some pods in a tank, and so they started getting to like the pods rather than the mices that you were putting in. So now
Well,
it's a case of getting them back on it by adding a little bit of PE every time you feed the live food, and just gradually over time increasing the amount of mysis and decreasing the amount of the live food.
I totally get
And
your point,
especially
Ray.
if you,
Sorry. I was just gonna say
sorry?
I totally get your point, and we're gonna help him because I think he has seahorses remaining. Get them weaned down to frozen foods if he needs that help. But I want to go back to the main story. So, Chris, did you buy them from a store or from a person?
No, I bought them from a pet store, and I
Okay.
thought the price was too good to be true because I know usually they are between, what is it, like $80 or so, and these were about like with taxes like $60. So they were the cheapest I've ever found them.
Yeah, cheap typically equals something's up. but I mean,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's a good deal, So nothing wrong with, you trying to do the right thing and you were looking for captive bred seahorses. So, no fault on you, but so you lost one. How many do you have left?
Well, I originally had a pair, and I read that they typically do better like in groups. So when the other one died a week ago, a day or two went by, and I got another one. So
Mhm.
now in my 30-gallon tank, it's more of a cube, 18 inches high. I just keep a pair of seahorses. That's it. I don't want to overdo it.
Okay, and aside from the temperature that we're going to tell you to lower, just to let you know, what else? What else is in the tank? What else is going on with the tank?
With the tank, I just have two gorgonians. I have a sand sifter starfish, four trochus snails, and six nasarius snails. That's it.
Nice. You're like me, seahorses and snails and gorgs. Yes. And did you cycle it completely properly? I'm sorry, I'm meeting you just now for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. My friends actually transitioned me from freshwater to saltwater. They cycled it for me about 3 months ago, and I used what is it, a damselfish to cycle it, live sand, live rock, and I used what is it
Oh,
called, the Fritz Turbo Start.
nice, nice with the turbo start. Um, you know, to each their own. We're not gonna. I like the ammonia cycle, but you obviously paid attention and made sure that the tank was cycled. I get it. Um, and how long?
Although the thing, can I add something there,
Of
Kelly?
course.
It's only cycled for one damselfish. not for seahorses that are really heavy feeders and there's so much more food floating around the tank. So you may not have a completely cycled tank. Just
Truth. Have you tested?
because I've seen that so many times.
Sorry, guys. Chris, sorry, just to let you know, if I'm interrupting a lot more than usual today, it's because of this freezing crap, and I like the Zoom's coming through, and then the Streamlabs is secondary. Sorry. So if I interrupt you, I apologize. Just tell me to shush. But Chris, have you tested the tank lately, like for ammonia and
Yeah,
nitrite?
I actually test my water parameters every Friday.
Nice.
My last parameters for it, and it's been stable. pH 8.0, ammonia 0, nitrite 0, nitrate 10 parts per million.
Nice. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, and Sam, you made a great point. I wasn't knocking it. I'm just saying if he's testing, then that's probably not the case, especially if he's testing
Yeah.
regularly, which is great. So you
And way better to test yourself than take water to an LFS. You know, like they're the ones giving you bad information to start with. Learn it yourself. It's simple chemistry.
not even chemistry; it's literally a test kit. but I'm
Well,
with you.
yeah.
And so, okay, and Holly, if I'm asking questions that you already know the answers to, feel free to jump us up to speed. And I did see your or a question in the comment section about pipefish. We'll get to that, I promise. But we got to get through with Chris's questions. So you bought a pair of seahorses. You bought a pair, not this pair of seahorses. One passed away. Did anything odd happen when you lost the seahorse, or did you just wake up and it was gone?
No, well, I already knew, and I kept to myself. Okay, I am new to seahorses, so I'm depending on what the pet store tells me. And if they're telling me that they're fine, well, then they're fine. But that feeling when you get like something's not right.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, that's how it happened. I woke up and it was just motionless. It wouldn't move or anything, and I had to take it out of the tank. But
When you said, wasn't it swimming sideways? It was swimming unusual, right? Too, didn't you
yeah,
say like it couldn't balance correctly?
yeah, prior to it passing away, it lasted like a whole week, maybe a week and a half, where it was just on the right side, on the left side, and it was not swimming well at all. It was eating, which is, I mean, someone mentioned copepods. I threw everything you could think of, copepods in there, ghost shrimp, guppy fry, just to get them to eat.
The swimming nearly sounds like the beginnings of GBH, gas bubble disease. Like that's the only time I've really seen seahorses swim like that. He may have had more problems than you think. So
That's bacterial, right?
no, it's normally water quality. Normally water quality, not bacterial.
Let's be fair, guys.
Even reoccurring water quality. Sorry, Kelly.
No, I was the one interrupting you, but let's be fair. We don't really know what causes GBD. Dan and other people who've been doing this for a long time agree with Sam and think it's water quality, but we're talking about Chris having a seahorse tank with no other tank mates, no coral. The temperature was high, which could lead to, maybe it being a bacterial type situation, or organics building up, especially because he was throwing in so much food to try to get them to eat.
I'm actually thinking that he came in already with problems,
right,
and they've just exacerbated in that week. It's not actually anything Chris has done at all. He's picked up sick seahorse. I've done the same in the past, and you lose them, and it's heartbreaking. But it's not your fault. It's the way they've been kept once they've caught. A lot of LFSs just throw food in. They don't actually watch to make sure they eat it. They don't slow the water quality, the water flow down, so the food doesn't just run out the tank. Temperature, there's a whole range of things. So, I'm sure
I was
Holly's
thinking that
been through it.
too. I agree with Sam. When I talked to Chris about it earlier today on Messenger, I was thinking that because if you really don't know where the seahorse came from, they're saying it's captive bred, but it sounds to me like it's probably wild caught. You don't know what problems the seahorse may already have and what it's been through to get there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. And yeah, agree with everything you ladies said. And Chris, definitely, I don't think this is your fault at all. I was just kind of going into the GBD
Mm.
description. But so we're at this point where you lost one, you bought another, same, from the same place, I'm guessing. Is that right, Chris? Did you buy your replacement seahorse from the same place?
Yeah, I didn't know this was before I found out about your website. And like I said, I've always been wanting to keep seahorses. That's been, like my goal. Like, wow, I want to own some someday. And this is the only spot that, like you said, I thought to myself, well, maybe it was already sick, so maybe if I get another one, maybe then I'll have a better luck. But that's what I thought. Maybe it was just a sick seahorse, because if the other one's fine, maybe I just got a bad one.
How's it gone since then with
Well,
the
what
two?
They're actually they're both swimming fine. They're both eating. I mean, just live food, so that kind of stinks because I mean I feel it in my pocket.
I
Yes.
wonder if they're like Indonesian net raised rather than actually captive bred seahorses with the way they're not keen to actually eat any dead foods. It can be really hard to transition seahorses over to frozen foods. I've always done it in a different way to what Ray does. If you want to have a chat sometime, flick me a message and we'll talk about it, or tag me on the page.
You know what, guys? I'll do my best to remember after we're done to put everybody's messenger links in the comments if you want to hit anybody up after these conversations. But for sure, and yeah, no, I mean, Chris, I totally agree with your assessment of it. I think the ladies are right that you probably just got a seahorse that had issues to begin with because your tank sounds set up very well aside from temperature. Which there are people that keep seahorse tanks at higher temperatures and succeed. So that shouldn't have been a cause. Also, the fact that your second seahorse is okay. Now, Ray, what were you saying about weaning seahorses onto frozen foods? How can we help this gentleman?
Um, it's just a case of being patient, and the uh, the speed of success is going to depend on the individual seahorse itself. Um, and when you have more than one, basically it's only going to take one. Once you get one to try it,
Yep.
then the others, once they see one of them eating the frozen food, then the others will go to it as well. But to get that first one, it's a case of mixing in with the live food so that hopefully the frozen food is staying right where the live food is as well, so that they have time to snick. Sometimes maybe it's in error,
Accidental
and then once
snicking.
they've done it, yeah,
Yep.
once they accidentally do it because it's mixed in with your live food, then they'll soon find that it is an acceptable thing to eat, especially if they have been on it before. Like if you had any pod life in the tank there that they started feeding on when you first put them in there, I've had, well, it's been quite a few years since I had pods in the tank, but um, I had Angustus that I got from Australia one time many years ago, and there were pods in the tank then. Well, as soon as I put the Angustus in there, and uh, they wouldn't eat now, they just were feeding on the amphipods. Now, once the amphipods got down, they still didn't want to eat the frozen food. So I ended up putting the brine shrimp, live brine shrimp in, and they would eat that. And I just mixed the Hikari mysis in with it. It took me a while to get them going. I can't remember for sure now because that's over a decade ago now. Um,
Well, and great
I think
points.
it was less than a month before the first one started eating, and then the other three got onto it afterwards.
Well,
But
and
once they
Holly,
one started,
sorry, Ray, go ahead.
once the one started, then the other three, it didn't take them hardly any time at all.
And Holly, I'm
I'm
guessing
watching
that
stuff.
as you've bred seahorses and had to wean seahorses onto frozen foods, you probably have given him some tips already, right?
Yeah, you just have to be persistent, keep trying. Usually what happens is they try it by accident and then they're like, "Oh, that was good." And then they'll start eating it. I start out by mixing it with the live food
Yep.
and watch for somebody to accidentally take it. And then another way too, if they're really not taking it, you can tell they're not. You feed it when they're really hungry.
First thing in the
Feed it to
morning.
them before you feed the live food. Maybe wait a little longer, wait till they're really hungry, and then they want to eat anything. So that's kind of how I do it when I'm converting to frozen food.
One
And
important thing to
first
remember,
thing is to kind of trick them, and then after that, just the hungrier they are, the more likely they will take the frozen food.
Go
What
ahead.
age are they? What age are they? Because I've had experience with really adult seahorses
You're
transition, trying to get them onto frozen food, and completely different scenario. Really, is what my
Great point,
experience
Sam.
has been.
Great point.
So,
Chris, do you know how old they
um,
are or how big are they?
Let's see. I have.
If you're going to
They're
show us,
about.
tell me because I'm going to make you big screen. Oh, yeah, he's showing us.
Yeah.
All right, hang on. Let me make this big screen. Oh, that didn't. Okay, that worked. You guys seeing it big screen now? Yay. All right, go
oh,
ahead, Chris.
got a starfish in there. That can be
I want
dangerous.
to say they're maybe like that looks like 4 or 5 inches, but they're pretty big. They're not small.
yeah, they're adults, definitely.
Wow.
I'd be calling them full adults myself,
I'm not seeing the
and that's kind of.
seahorse.
They're
I
big.
do. He's
I
hanging on
did.
to that coral.
Oh,
It's
they're.
on the backside there.
All right, there's another one back here. He's like putting his there it is. It's lifting its head up now.
I see him. Okay. They're camouflage artists, guys, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you're doing this transition stuff, make sure that you remove the mysis that don't get eaten.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Water quality is the number one thing to keeping the seahorses alive. There are no test kits that we can use to tell when the dissolved organics are getting high enough to support bacterial expansion. It's all preventive measures that we have to take. And the number one thing is to keep things clean. If you have mechanical filtration, you want to make sure that you're cleaning it out at least twice a week, and especially if it's a canister filter. But
well, hey, you know what, Ray? I
make
don't.
sure you,
Hey, Ray, I don't mean to interrupt you again, but Chris,
yeah,
what is the filter on the tank?
I have a small little skimmer, but I don't think it's doing its job since I don't really see it. What is it making any bubbles? So maybe that's also a problem.
Is it
Yeah,
in
go
the sump?
oversized because that you need that.
Yeah, that's in the sump.
Okay. So you have a sump. How big's the sump?
Let me see. So my sump is here's where I have my return pump. Well, one of them. I don't know if this is the right flow for them either, but I have 2 return pumps, and I'm aiming the hoses up so to create like a little current. I don't know if that's too much flow or that's right enough for them. But there's my return pump.
Show
There,
us your skimmer.
yeah, there is a what is this sponge, carbon, I think, biofilter, and there's my other my heater, and then my other return pump, and the skimmer I had here, but I removed it because it wasn't I don't think it was doing the proper job.
Okay, that's not what we'd call a sump in the traditional marine world. It's an all-in-one. It's got a small space in the back rather than a separate tank underneath.
But
So,
I still see. You know, it's better than nothing. But go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd just recommend you get a hang on back skimmer and go oversized. Go for something for a tank 2, 3 times the size of what yours is, because you'll really need it to remove the organics. It will really help with your water quality. And do you want me to go briefly through how I get
Yes,
adult wild caught seahorses to eat?
Yeah, please.
absolutely, please.
All right. I am lucky enough to live right on the coast, so I can collect live mysids and things like that. So I can provide them with the food that they always get in the wild anyway. But I defrost frozen mysis, and I also use garlic. Garlic is a really good appetite stimulant. So it's a really handy tool to use just to get them eating. Once they start eating it, then you can cut out the garlic. I'm not saying it's really healthy and it's going to do wonders for your fish, but it will encourage them to eat.
I'm going to
And with the
interrupt. I'm
turkey
going to
based
interrupt.
stuff,
Sam, Sam,
once you
Sam,
get
Sam, Sam. Tell how to use garlic, because we say this all
super.
the time, but people are like, what? Do I throw a clove
Oh,
in?
okay.
Some minced?
When you defrost your frozen mysis in a little cup of tank water, if you use fresh water, it's going to float. So use some of your tank water. Put in a few drops of the garlic supplement that you buy from your fish shop, and let it sit for 5-10 minutes while it defrosts. Then rinse it off and feed the mysis one by one with a turkey baster. Now, I used to get a fully formed mysis. They can be so picky. If they don't have eyes, I won't eat it, shit like that. So you want to get a perfect looking mysis, and just kind of, when you work the turkey baster, you can hang it right in front of their faces and they'll eyeball it, and eventually they do eat it. It might take a couple of weeks, but you keep doing that. I was doing it up to 5 times a day. And once you get one that's eating it, the others follow. So it can make a massive difference.
Great,
Yeah.
great points. So, soaking the mysis before you rinse it in garlic can add some good, I don't know if they call it smells or what,
Oh,
but make the seahorses want to eat it. And are you
yep.
showing us something? Sorry.
No,
Oh
yeah,
no, you're
sorry.
walking. Okay. Sorry. Just
Uh,
wanted to make sure.
no,
Okay.
He's got something. He's got garlic gourd. That works. You know what? You already knew. See,
That'll work.
nice job.
so this is what I use. I put water from their tank, and then I haven't done it every day. I can't lie to you guys and say I've done it every day. I've only tried once. So I do put the, what is it, the frozen mices or pea mices in here, a little cube, and I usually, put some garlic guard. I let it sit for like 10, 20 minutes, let it dissolve, and then I would scoop it up with this, and then just, yes, like in front of their faces, but I don't see them eating it.
So they're still not eating
Right.
it. Okay. Well, one thing.
PE,
One thing I want to say really quick that Sam mentioned, but I want to make
PE
sure.
mysis is big, isn't it? I don't get that in Australia. PE mysis is really large, yeah?
Yeah. So what she's saying, first of all, is another thing you could try is Hikari mysis, which is
Yeah.
smaller than PE
Yep.
mysis. And also, she
Yep.
mentioned something that actually matters to picky seahorses is that if you're like chopping it up at all, or if you're when you rinse the mysis, if you're rinsing it really hard and it becomes pieces, if you've got wild caught or picky seahorses, they're going to want to see eyes, like eyeballs, literal eyeballs on the mysis shrimp. So those are two things that I can think of. What else, Sam?
Big thing I heard too is you said you've only tried it once.
Oh,
Once, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Consistency is huge. You have to do it a lot of times. And my experience, a lot of times in a day. Like Sam was saying, maybe 6 times in a day. And like whenever you're home and you have time, go try it because it's like training a dog. I've
yep.
trained a lot of dogs and it takes repetitive. Eventually they get it, but you
Dogs are
really have
so much
to
easier.
keep trying. Keep
Well,
trying. 1 or 2 times is not going to do it.
I'd like to know, Chris, you mentioned that when you lost the first one and when you realized they weren't eating the foods, that you're adding foods constantly and it's hurting your pocketbook. I'm totally with you. And that you tried frozen once and it didn't work. So, how are you feeding currently? What are you, I mean, like how often? What are you
Uh,
feeding?
to be honest, I'm doing what is it called? I think they're like baby brine shrimp.
Okay.
There's some that I already had. There's some that another ones that I'm working on hatching myself. And then I have to go buy what is it? Ghost shrimp. Ghost shrimp. As soon as I throw them in, they immediately eat them.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
hatching, excuse me, hatching the shrimp yourself is not the best thing because unless you grow them out to adult size, it takes too many of them to be of any value. That's even if they will eat much of them.
Well,
Um,
enriched Artemia would be different, but we don't want to go. Uh, we just want to get your seahorses eating. Period. So
yeah,
the few things that I would
try the
suggest.
Hikari.
Sorry. Yeah, Ray said try Hikari mysis because they're smaller and the seahorses will just relate them to like the brine shrimp that you're feeding. The other thing, I mean, if you get desperate, you need to get in Seahorse Sources group, and Dan will explain enriching seahorses if you need that explanation. But if I were you personally, what I would do is starting tomorrow morning, I would not feed late at night tonight. I would let the amount of food in the tank because you got live foods. Of course, they're going to choose live foods over frozen. So you kind of almost have to let the food supply diminish. You don't want to starve your seahorses. I'm totally with you there, but you have to let it diminish to where they don't have another choice, and then try feeding the frozen mysids, and then if they don't eat it, as Ray recommended, remove it immediately. I can, if you need instruction on that, you can just use a turkey baster or a suction, doesn't matter. But you have to remove it if they don't eat it within like 10, 20 minutes because bacteria grows upon it. So remove it if they don't eat it, then give them live foods, just enough to feed them for that feeding, not enough to fill the tank or feed them for a week, just enough to feed them for that feeding, and then try again at night or then again the next morning, etc. Use the garlic, absolutely. Another thing is flow. What's you showed the basic flow along the top of the tank. Is there any wave makers or power heads in the tank?
No, no way makers.
Okay, and that's totally your choice, but is there flow along the bottom of the tank? Like if you drop a piece of food, does it fall to the bottom and sit there, or does it float?
Yeah. No, I fell to the bottom. Both of my return pumps are facing up. I was told by the pet store where I got them that to aim them up, that way it can, what is it, when water evaporates, it pretty much just allows oxygen.
Oxygen exchange, sure. No, and that's,
Mhm.
I mean, that part of the equation is not wrong, but I have just found from, I've never had wild caught adults. Sam's going to help you more in that area, but when I was training Fry to eat frozen foods, it did, they would not touch it unless it seemed to be moving. And what I did personally, you guys can correct me if you disagree, but what I did personally is I made sure that I had it covered. You have to cover it to make sure nothing gets hurt. You've got adults, luckily, so they're not tiny. You can cover it with, there's lots of options. There's even made options now to cover a powerhead or wave maker. And then you allow that to circulate the food so it's not just laying there. It looks like it's moving. Thoughts from the rest of you guys?
And
I did the
more
opposite.
flow is usually better. I think most of us long-term people are probably in the 20 times flow or even higher.
Great. And
When I
Sam
was
disagrees. Go ahead.
transitioning my guys onto frozen, I would turn the return pumps off
Mm,
and I had very little flow because it made it easier for me to suspend the mysis with the turkey baster in front of the seahorse's nose. And I also handled mine a lot. They all came to me and would hang on my hands and stuff like that. So I don't know, that seemed to help me. When the flow was on, they didn't want to know about it because they weren't swimming against the flow. They saw them as dead food, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, you're a mama. You were
Seahorses
a
are
mama of
strange
seahorses. That's not
creatures.
the same. No, just kidding. Sorry. But so
Seahorse slave, you mean?
when you fed with it, because I've had picky seahorses that were captive bred, they were just picky, that I had to feed with a turkey baster. Because if I put food in a tray or broadcast fed, they didn't wanted nothing to do with it. You're making a good point. But when you use a turkey baster to feed,
Yeah,
if you
they
put a
do.
piece of food in near the
Hmm.
seahorse where they can see it, it's right in front of their face, it's got eyeballs, and it still doesn't eat it, and it drops to the floor, do you leave it? Do you keep feeding, trying that, or how long? What's your recommendation there?
No, I remove it. I'd take it out straight away. There's no point leaving it
So you
unless
do
they're
one at a
actually
time?
following it down and looking at it. Yeah,
Unless what?
yeah. I was feeding one at a time, so I was hand feeding each one. But I was also putting up to 100 live mysids and ghost shrimp and stuff like that in the tank every day. So
Wow.
they had heaps of live food to eat. And it was really a matter of getting their attention and getting them to try it. And once they did, they went, oh, this is great. And when I fed them 4 times a day, they still ate frozen food as well as the live food. I never had any that didn't eat frozen because there was still live food in the tank.
No
So,
kidding.
but
Oh my gosh. See
yeah,
that makes
seahorses are different though.
right. I
I'll
know.
say some
I just
too.
always
There's individuals that take a while to decide. I have seahorses that look at it for a while and size it up before they snick it. They don't always snick it right away. I just
Oh yeah, they're like
the adults
mandarins.
a new
They're slow and
dish,
picky.
and they had to study the food in the new food dish for a good few minutes before they decided to start snicking it. You know, they sometimes it takes them a while to think, do I really want this? Is it safe? I don't know. They're slow thinkers sometimes, I think.
I absolutely agree. I've just on Sam, I'm impressed with your method because I've never had seahorses that would choose frozen food over live ever.
I
So
think they're just pigs.
well, they are pigs for sure. I'm so
Yeah.
the only point to my comment there is that if you're trying to get them to take frozen, then they won't. You can use the turkey baster method that Sam just described. It's a great method and it works. But I would limit the amount of food, live food, in the tank when you're trying to do it. Like when I had to get Fry to wean over onto frozen foods, if there was any other food left, why would they be interested? Sam has some unique creatures that call her mama. Ray, what are your thoughts?
But different species too. So
Right.
different species act differently.
That Sam, you just made a great
For
point.
me,
Hang on, Ray.
whatever way you can get them eat, it
Chris,
doesn't matter how you do it, as long as they're meat.
no, right,
Yeah.
you're right. Chris, what species are they? Do you know?
Yeah, they're Hippocampus erectus.
Oh yeah, they should be scarfing stuff down. I mean, that's
Yeah, I saw him. He sent me a video. They look just like mine. Mine are erectus, so I'm thinking they are. I'm pretty sure they are erected. I was just thinking too, another thing occurred to me. If you put live food in a turkey baster, and so they get to know that food comes out of the turkey baster, and
Yeah.
you mix the frozen food
yep.
in the turkey
I
baster,
love it.
so they're going to
That's a good
associate
idea.
the turkey
Yeah.
baster with food. I know mine do. So maybe that might help too. That just occurred to me because they learn quick where food comes from.
Hey, Chris
Yeah.
Carey,
They
if
watch
you're still
everything.
in the comments, what are your thoughts? Give me some thoughts here. And Ray's got to feed his seahorses. I see, no problem. I do see the rest of the questions in the comment section. We will answer, my promise. We'll go to them. I just want to make sure we get through anything we can do to help Chris as a newcomer to the channel. So you got some ideas on things you can try for feeding to stop having to do all these live feeds constantly, because believe me, I know, I'm with you, it sucks. What else
But
is going on that you're concerned about or had questions about?
No, that's pretty much it.
Just getting them to eat, right?
Yeah.
And how long have you had the two that are doing well?
Well, one, because it's still alive. I've had it for about a month, actually, and the new one I barely have about like a week and a half with it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hit you up on the side too, but I wanted to make sure we made any conversation about this public. And, yeah, the few things that I would personally suggest, and you guys can go around and make any suggestions you want, but lower the temperature. Are you able to do that? Are you using a heater or?
Yeah, right now I have a heater on. That's why it's that high. If I disconnected it, it should drop. Right now, temperature in my house is about pretty chilly here, like 75
Oh,
degrees.
lucky you.
It's not lucky you. I've got snow outside, yo. That's not lucky. But I
Yeah,
hear you. I hear you,
I'm
Chris. Go on.
sweating my ass off.
We're
Well,
gonna. We're
he's in LA though, so it'll get hot when it's our summer. You're
well.
just on the opposite side from us, so it's your turn to suffer.
There you
Well,
go.
and suffering I am, believe me.
Well, Chris, I would say the way I run all of my Seahorse tanks, which has been very successful, is I don't have any heaters in the tank, and I personally use my central air to heat and cool my house to the degree I like it, which ends up making my Seahorse tanks remain like 72, 73. So I would definitely disconnect your heater. In fact, many people end up getting chillers for Seahorses. I don't think you should have to, but I would definitely disconnect the heater because if there are any problems, like if your Seahorse did come in wild caught and there was something bacterial, viral, whatever going on with it, and your temperature is lower, then the things that are hurting it grow less quickly. Did I say that in a really easy way? I hope so. Um, but anyways, bottom line is get it beneath 74 degrees if you can. Don't stress too much, but just unhook that heater is my 2 cents. Second recommendation, which Sam mentioned, is if you don't, because you have an all-in-one tank, I get it that you wouldn't want to actually add a sump underneath, but look into a hang-on back skimmer because a skimmer like changes the game in a Seahorse tank. I wish I'm not sure what's going on with Dan tonight, guys, but I wish he'd been here because he could go into detail about the scientific reasons for a skimmer, but I'm just going to tell you it makes every single difference. Your tank will work once you have a skimmer going on it. And
Oh, it does, yeah, it does all kinds of good things.
Sure.
and speaking
Yeah.
of which, when you look at a skimmer hang on back or in the sump, if someone else is wondering about this, I personally look for a skimmer that's rated 2 times my tank size. So,
So,
if you find a skimmer that's rated for a 30-gallon tank, you want one and you have a 30-gallon tank, you want one that's rated for a 60-gallon tank. Because it makes such a world of difference, not just because of oxygenation, but removing the organics. Let's leave it there. And so I got temperature, skimmer, 3, work on, because I just keep thinking you're adding all of this food, and live food obviously still creates organics because they eat and poo themselves. And then, how often are you doing water changes on the tank, actually?
I'm doing water changes twice a week. I don't know if that's too much. I'm removing 5 gallons.
Wow. No, I mean, I don't think that's too much. I think that's
pretty
great.
much.
No.
Mhm.
You can't do too many water changes in a sealer sink. You can't. But no,
Uh-huh.
that's great. And Sam, were you going to say something?
No, exactly what you were going to say. Sounds fine. You can't do too many.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I totally agree.
And the only other thing I would recommend along those lines is make sure that when you do try to feed frozen foods that you remove it if they don't eat it after 10, 20 minutes. Again, I have a terrible video which everybody made fun of me for because I use literally a hose and I use literal suction like mouth. But there are other ways to do it. You could use your turkey baster even. It doesn't matter. Blah blah blah. But remove any uneaten food. And with the live foods, Sam and I are kind of kind of at odds here, but I personally would say only feed what they're going to eat in a feeding, because you want the tank bear and them hungry when they go to possibly eat mysids. And Sam disagrees. You've heard it, and that's fine.
No,
If,
no, 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 not at all, really, because different species are different. I don't know
right.
rectus. That's one species I don't know. I know barbori are way more picky than sub-A longs. Awesome. They'll eat straight off the bat, like different species do different things. So you're probably exactly right. I've never kept that species, so I'd go with what Kelly's saying for sure.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, Sam, I'll say that my Barbori, I literally had to turkey baster feed their entire existence because they're so picky. So I'm totally with you. Now we're on the same page.
They're big babies, aren't they?
Yes, but they're so beautiful. Anyways, Chris, back to you. Sorry.
Yep.
With the rectus, I would personally say, like, let the amount of live foods in the tank go down. And you can obviously see, don't let your seahorses get caved in stomachs, or, don't let them starve or anything, but let them be hungry for a minute and then try the frozen foods first thing in the morning. Before every feeding, try it and just remove it if they don't eat it. And then again, someone else said mix it. Holly said mix it, garlic soak it, and then mix it with live feeds in whatever you're using to feed. What else have I not covered, Ray, or anyone else?
Actually, you caught me not listening. I'm sitting typing.
All right. Well,
I didn't pay for live foods, so I'd hate to have to pay for it. That's got to make a big difference to the hip pocket. You got to live in reality, unfortunately.
yes, and I wish Dan had been able to make it, because he could have talked to you. Please come back again next week, Chris. No matter the topic, we'll cover this again. If you're still having issues or if nothing's worked, because Dan could give you more specifics on, like, gut loading the artemia, because the thing is with artemia, they're good for protein, but they don't have the DHA that seahorses need. You already mentioned that you were buying um, ghost shrimp, so that probably provides more of what they need. I'm not sure, but bottom line is, if you're literally not able to wean them into frozen, which I think you will be, but if you're not, then we can talk more about keeping them alive until you can. And yeah, I see you guys making comments, but Chris, do you think that we've answered some questions, or
No, you just answered all of them, and like I mentioned to Holly, it's just very confusing because
sure?
you're starting a hobby and you hear different things, and people tell you what works for them, what doesn't, and then it's just overwhelming because you're thinking, well, I heard this information, and this person claims to know about seahorses, so I don't know who to listen to, and now I'm in this predicament.
Well, did
I
anything
think
we?
if you follow people
Group
that
to come to.
have a lot of successful years in keeping them,
Yes.
uh, while you might be enticed to try something that somebody with less experience is saying they've had a lot of luck with, I would leave it until you get the experience yourself to know what's going on, and then make the decision if you want to try something different then.
But I hear what he's saying, because when you're in a situation where you lost a seahorse and you don't want to lose another, you don't want to make any mistakes. I totally hear what you're saying. So I'm curious, what have you heard that went against anything we said tonight, or that was different?
As I mentioned to Holly, I don't know if I should name them because we are live. I don't want to put
Yeah,
anyone
don't.
to
Yeah.
shame, but it's two pet stores that did tell me, to keep them at that temperature. You guys advise the opposite, and actually, there's a friend of mine who also he says he's an expert himself, and he told me the same thing. No, don't keep them at that. That's way too low for seahorses. You want to keep them at 76, 78, 79 if you can. So you want to do that. And when I heard that, I thought, okay, well,
What's he an
maybe.
expert at?
Yeah, reef
Uh,
tanks or seahorses.
Be nice,
well,
guys.
yeah, well, you get
No,
Oh,
no,
but
just
is
saying that's
he
reef
a
tank.
seahorse expert?
Well, I mean, he didn't say he was a seahorse expert, but he just said he knew a lot about like marine aquariums. And when I told him about the issues I had, he told me to crank up the temperature to where I have it now.
I was
Yeah,
into marine tanks decades before I got into seahorses, and I'll tell you, there is no comparison.
Let,
There's there's such a difference in their needs
mhm.
that you can forget about a lot of what a marine tank needs and work to specific needs of the seahorse itself.
Agree with Ray.
Uh,
A
unfortunately,
seahorse tank is.
seahorses don't live in on reefs,
Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
especially. No. Seahorses don't live on coral reefs where the water gets hot. They go into deeper water. They're living in colder places. They're on seagrasses and stuff like that. And like I'm not picking on your mate. He's perfectly right when it comes to a marine tank,
Right.
but not with seahorses. And also, it's to do with the exponential growth rate of bacteria. Once you get it down to 19 degrees Celsius, I can't give you the exact conversion at the moment. The growth rate of bacteria that will kill a seahorse heaps quicker than any other marine fish is so low that the seahorse can defend it itself. So, you can get away with a lot more in a smaller tank with a lower temperature. And it's not going to hurt your seahorses. They're cool with it. They love it.
Yeah, I keep mine. I was telling him earlier today, my adult seahorses, I keep them around 72.
Yep.
The juveniles, I keep them at 69 to 70 just to keep the bacteria low. And they're fine with it. But yeah, I've kept other saltwater tanks. Like Sam says, a lot of it's different than keeping other marine fish. And the thing is, somebody can be an expert on reef tanks or general marine fish, like Ray was saying, but
Absolutely.
seahorses are different in a lot of ways. They have different needs and some different parameters. So
Absolutely. And I would agree with what everyone said and just say,
real expert on seahorses, then they wouldn't know that. And this is a great group to come to for
mm-hmm.
people that have been raising seahorses for many, many years and really know what they're doing. So I think, Chris, I mean, I hope you trust me. I know we just met today on Facebook, but this is a great group to come to for expert information just on seahorses specifically.
I agree with everything everyone said, and I would just say when I look at people that I'm going to listen to about a subject, my first thing is how long they kept the specific tank or species or situation that I'm talking about. So, totally agree with what Holly just said. I have had reef tanks for much longer, freshwater tanks for even longer than that. But when I came to seahorses, I failed miserably at first because I didn't know what the heck I was doing because it's just not the same. Seahorse tanks aren't hard; the rules are just different, and it really, frankly, Chris, again, no offense to anybody at all ever, but it upsets me to hear that people are saying to keep a seahorse tank at the same temperature or in the same way as a reef tank. You obviously have gotten some good advice because you've got a tank with gorgonians and snails and not, a bunch of stinging corals and aggressive fish. So you're on the right track for sure. So no downplay to your friend, but the temp thing is kind of key. Not to chase it, not to like, oh my gosh, it's over 74 degrees, I'm gonna freak out. But like the goal should definitely be below. That's like one of the key things to keeping seahorses. So
Is the damsel that cycled the tank still in there, or is that been removed?
No, that one. My friend actually wanted it, so I just
Good.
offered it to my friend.
Awesome. Good. They're
Well,
aggressive
and
little fuckers.
Yeah.
Sam, no cursing, dang it. Just. But no, I was just gonna say too along those lines that that's another reason that's like I don't want to I'm not smart enough frankly to go into the science of it, but that's another reason if if you have a tank that was cycled with fish that were very likely wild caught, and now you have seahorses that are very likely wild caught, that's an even more important reason to be worried about keeping the temperature low so bacteria grow slower, because you never know what came in on them, you know. So that's my only points for that. But and the other cool thing, as far as what Holly was saying, is, Chris, the cool part is you can come back here every week, and if we're wrong, you can tell us live, and you can be like, "You're wrong because that didn't work," and we'll continue to help you and continue to try to help you along the way. So I'm gonna let you guys say. I'm gonna check the
It
comments.
might be
Go ahead.
one more thing I'll add is it might be worth giving them a worming treatment if there's any suspicions on them being wild caught. Gut load some Artemia with some Prazi or something like that, because that will also help their general condition and well-being.
Another thing that, are you on Seahorse Source when you're on Facebook?
Yep, he joined the group.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, look for the spot where it says files, and click on that files, and you'll find a lot of links to a lot of information that you can learn from. Some of it is directly put there, are written by Dan himself, and the rest of it are links that he trusts to
Yep.
give proper information.
And apologies, Chris. Dan is usually here. I hadn't touched base with him. This is like the first time in forever that he wasn't here. He will be here next week. That's why I said if you don't feel that we answered your questions fully, then just come back next week for sure. Or, of course, post in the group. But I was about the deworming thing really quickly, Sam. Obviously, if you get wild caught seahorses that you know are wild caught seahorses, you want to deworm and all the other steps. But if you aren't even sure, I guess my question to Chris would be, when you look at the seahorses, do they look as if their stomachs are caved in? Because if the seahorses are eating and looking fat, they likely don't have worms. Am I wrong? Sam?
Or is their poo stringy? Does it look like the food they've eaten falling apart, or is it in strings? If it's in strings, they probably do need worms. Observation is heaps with seahorses. You can pick up a lot about, with observation.
Absolutely, I agree. And Chris, do your seahorses look fat? Are they rounded in the stomach?
No, I actually spoke to Holly and I think other people on the website, and everybody had, plump, fat seahorses.
Yep.
Mine are the exact opposite. Like you said, they are caved. Their bellies are caved in. As for the poop, I cannot say, oh, it's this way, because I haven't really paid attention to it. But their stomachs, yeah, it looks like it's like pressed in.
Another trick I used with really thin wild caught horses is, as well as the garlic, while defrosting your mysis or your frozen food, is a huffer supplement, highly unsaturated fatty acids. And that really, really helps put weight on a really thin seahorse very quickly if you can get them to eat the frozen food. So consider getting some of that as well.
Well, I just wish these stores would stop selling seahorses if they can't care for them and do it right. Like, this just makes me so angry, seriously. And now I'm very glad that, I'm sorry, did someone say something? Okay. And I'm very glad, Sam, that you did bring up deworming at this point, because I wasn't even thinking that. I haven't dealt with wild caught seahorses in so long. It didn't even cross my mind. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. I'm going to table that conversation until I can. Actually, I'm going to message you on the site, Chris, because I just don't want to publicly tell people to deworm seahorses for no reason. But Sam, what is your deworming process? Just overview.
I'm nasty, man. I used to get ghost shrimp and inject them with Prazi, say.
Okay, back up. What's an easy Deworming method.
If your seahorses are going to eat artemia and you're hatching them out, gut load some artemia, put them in a bucket, make sure they eat them all, and you're away. That's probably the easiest way. Ray, what do you think?
So wait, hang on. So what you
Never
just
had to deworm any, so for
hang on.
me,
Oh,
anytime I've had to do any recommendation, I steer them on to the site
yeah.
on seahorse.org.
Right, and the
Um,
seahorse.org recommendation is to put it in the water, correct? But what Sam's saying, just to be
Yeah,
clear, first of
you
all,
can do it.
go ahead.
You can do a bath as well. So
Yeah.
it depends if your seahorses are actually going to eat it or not. But if they're eating the live food, like if you're feeding them ghost shrimp, you can actually get the medication and a little insulin syringe and put it under their carapace. And it's not going to kill the shrimp, but it's going to make sure the seahorse actually eats it. My background's aquaculture, so I have a different approach to a lot of people. So,
You can
maybe
do
gut
things
loading
better than some
artemia
of
would
us.
be the best, or in a bucket. No, just different.
Yeah.
Not necessarily better, just different.
But I think most people that go through the deworming process don't have syringes that they inject shrimp. I think that's awesome. But I think, you could feed it to Artemia by just putting it in the water with Artemia. They'll eat it. And then, or you could put it in the
Mm-hmm.
water and do a bath, right? And I believe there's
Yep.
instructions for deworming on Seahorse Sources group, right? I think so. If not, I'll make sure there is
If
by
there's
tomorrow.
no, I'm pretty sure there's a file on
Yeah.
Seahorse Solutions group as well.
Okay. Oh, Seahorse Solutions Group, absolutely. And do most people still recommend Prezi Pro, or is there something else that most people use? I've never had to deworm either,
No,
unfortunately,
but
or fortunately.
Prezi Pro is the one that most people use. Yeah.
Okay. And so there's a couple of ideas for you, Tim. Sorry, Chris. I know you're spending out of pocket to feed your seahorses, which sucks. So hopefully we can help you get them weaned onto frozen foods using the tricks we've talked about. Hopefully you'll take the advice about the temperature and the skimmer. But I know that the skimmer's more money too. But if you're seriously worried about your seahorses, or if God forbid you lose another one, I would definitely recommend buying your seahorses from a different source to start off, or once you get them, in this case, deworm them. But go ahead. Oh, I thought you were
No,
saying
all
something.
I wanted to say was, no, sorry, was just, everyone mentioned the website, Alyssa's Seahorse or something like that,
It's
and
seahorsesavvy.com.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I could have just been cruel and just say, well, these are these are wild caught, and let me just let them die, and I'll just replace them, like nothing, and just get captive bred. But I don't want to do that.
No.
I want to say at least I tried. And if God forbid all else fails, then hey, I could say at least I tried.
You're really unlikely to get that reaction from any of the seahorse groups. I'm admin on a couple, and we get people every day who are told absolute crap from LFS and other people, and whether it's because they don't know any better or whatever, you're left with the problem. So no one's going to blame you for trying to do the best for your seahorses.
Yeah.
And if I came across the wrong way, I wasn't saying that at all. I was just saying, if in the future things don't work out, maybe next time do things differently. But absolutely do everything you can to try now. That's why we're putting forth all these tips, and I applaud you for doing your best. And I really think that and hope that you'll succeed. We just got to get them eating, and if they need dewormed, get them dewormed. But that's maybe fix up some things in the tank. But I think you're going to be successful. I'm totally with you.
I've seen people start with worse to be successful. So,
Absolutely.
You're on the right track talking to people on Kelly's group and a couple of others. Just get out there and meet some people, and like you've met Holly, get a mentor, someone who's been doing it for a while who can give you advice.
And I'll tell you, if you are successful with these seahorses you still have, you know, most breeders, like professional breeders, start off with wild caught that they condition. It's just a matter of conditioning them, getting them to eat frozen, fattening them up, getting them really healthy, and then getting them to breed. So you never know. You might end up the next breeder. Who knows? But I think what you're doing is really cool.
E-
Mhm.
Every captive bred fish came from wild caught broodstock.
Yep.
You know, we didn't find them in plastic tanks or glass tanks. They'll come from the ocean. So, you know,
Yeah.
go for it. Good luck.
And I do know that when you come on here and you ask a simple question, we've got all these extensive answers and it can be overwhelming. So let me just again say, you know, if you can't run out and fix all these things or do all these things tomorrow, start small. Just, I really kind of feel like with Erectus, start with, you know, making them hungry and then trying to feed mysis frozen. Switch to Hikari mysis, which is a smaller species like Ray suggested. Lower the temperature, unplug that heater. It's going to make a big difference for you. And we're going to look into the deworming process and see maybe if that might not help you out, might not need to be. You've had the one Seahorse for over a month, which is good. So I'll admit it. I'm going to hit Dan up and see what he thinks about this one. So I'm going to get back with you either way, and we'll make sure to talk about this again next week. But definitely, we're on your side. Don't ever think we're not. And you're right. When you have a bum deal, sure, you could say forget it and start over with better, but you could have the best right in front of you. You just got to make it work. So.
Right.
So you're not wrong. And Holly, I hope we did okay. Or Chris, I hope we did okay answering some of the questions. I know a lot more needs to be discussed, but we'll bring it up next week again, and we'll maybe talk on the side about it. Chris, do you feel like you got a few answers? I know you have to decide who to trust, but I'm telling you, lower the dang temperature. I promise.
Yeah, no, you guys all, you guys all seem like you know what you're doing, and you've been successful at it before. So I'm definitely gonna take your word over the other people. But just thank you so much for going out of your way and
Of
answering
course.
my questions. It really means a lot.
Of course, and
The
we hope.
biggest thing I think you can remember right now is that while there are many people that do many things in different ways, there are certain core things about keeping seahorses that pretty well everybody agrees on.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you if you get those core things through your head and understand them, then you're halfway there, right? Uh, Without even having to worry about all the other differences.
And one of those things is the temperature. And I actually
Yep.
have the link because I'm
And
doing
keeping the
something.
damn tank as clean as you can.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, I have the link from Seahorse Sources group that's in the file section. So anyone that's watching that's not yet a member, go join Seahorse Sources group on Facebook. But I will post the PDF in the comments because I already have it. So hopefully I won't mess that one up. But I will post that one in the
I've
comments.
got the links. I've got the links to that one too because I have that argument every day.
Well, go post the link right now in the comments so I don't have to forget it myself. Okay, well, Chris, so thank you so much for coming tonight and asking your questions. And again, I'll follow up with you myself, and we're gonna hope that you come next week when Dan will very likely be here too, and we'll kind of move, go from here, see what you're doing, how you're doing, see if we can figure out any other things. I do want to make sure, though, if you have any other questions too, please ask them, but I do want to make sure we cover the questions in the comment section too. So gonna jump subjects here. Dylan's Little Hobbies bought your new tank in the mail. Woo! Your first tank's gonna be saltwater tank. Yay! Look, I'm trying to scream but not scream because I'm such a loudmouth. All right. What seahorse safe tank mates could I keep in the meantime till I'm used to saltwater? I know Kelly doesn't like the idea of clownfish. I like Banggai, but I'm not sure. Thoughts for the rest of you? Seahorse tank mates.
Clown gobies. Clown gobies are awesome. Rainford goby is also a really good one for a seahorse tank. They like a bit of filamentous algae in their diet, which you're going to have that in a seahorse tank. Most small gobies are fantastic because they're shy and slow moving fish. You don't want anything that's fast moving or going to gobble up food before the seahorse gets to it. So, general rule.
I agree with you, Sam. I have a gobies are great. I have a mandarin dragonet that works.
I've always had mandarins, but you need an established tank, so I thought I'd start with the easier ones.
Yep.
Yeah. I started actually with my cleanup crew, and then pods to feed the goby. I established that first, or not the goby, but the mandarin dragonet.
I don't see a problem with bangais or any slow moving, non aggressive fish. The reason, I'll be honest with you, that I don't keep other fish in my seahorse tank is that bottom line. I think there's a question later about whether or not to keep pipefish in a seahorse tank. And my problem is captive bred versus not, period.
Yeah.
So, and I see Chris left. I'm sorry, Chris, I should have given you a chance to say goodbye. I hope you come next week and we will definitely touch base with you. Holly, I hope I did okay with him. But anyways,
Great.
yeah, it's the bottom line that any fish you put in the tank is bringing something to the tank, and if it's not captive bred, it scares me.
It needs worming.
Yeah, so quarantine for just watching the observation, or maybe even pre-treating, that would make a difference to me. And a lot of people keep fish in their seahorse tanks with no problem. I just personally like to get my seahorses nice and healthy before I would even consider, because you got to figure, if you have fish in your tank that are wild caught or from a pet shop and not captive bred, they might be fine. But you bring a seahorse in, even if it is captive bred, it's stressed out. Its immune system's weakened, and it's used to a sterile environment in that captive breeding facility. So I'm just a stickler.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the same fish before.
And
I put a
again,
link
go ahead, Dan.
in the
Right.
chat part. I put a link in there to the seahorse.org tank mate page.
Thank you, Ray. Because yes, you can keep any deemed safe animal or fish in a seahorse tank. I just personally am super, super careful. So Dylan's your comment about me not liking clowns. Yeah, I always use my own clowns who are total jerks as an excuse. But I keep seahorse only tanks. That's kind of my thing. But it doesn't mean to say that you have to.
But clownfish are related to damselfish. They will get territorial and aggressive. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Right. So, the clownfish might be adorable sorry, my battery's going, might be adorable in most people's minds, but in reality, it's really not what you want in a seahorse tank at all.
Right. And the one thing I always say
from clowns.
What, Ray?
I've had lots of blood bled into my tank from clowns.
Right. My clownfish will.
They bite you, and next thing you know, you look and you're bleeding.
Your own fingers, right? And other fish. My clownfish, once one became female and one was male, man, any new fish I put into that tank, my reef, not my seahorse tanks, but any new fish I put in, they rip it like they'll take it in their mouth and shake it like a dog. Okay, you guys don't want my impressions. But anyways, maybe my clownfish are just mean. Maybe it's when they become a parrot. I don't care. Do you, I'll do me. I'm never going to judge you. But beware that even if you're clownfish, what I like to ask people is, as I was telling Chris earlier, when I'm looking for advice or when someone's giving advice, I say, how long has this been occurring? Like, how long have you had clownfish with seahorses? If it's not over a year or two, if you don't have a year or two of experience with seahorses, that's just the way I'm super careful. But I agree
That's exactly right.
Chris said to apologize to everybody. His phone died. He just messaged me. So he said, thanks for everything. His phone died. He has no more juice.
We're
So
gonna make sure he's invited back next week,
I
and we
invited him
appreciate
back
it.
for next week. So hopefully we'll see him again.
Good, because I want an update. But yeah, I mean, what are the rest of your thoughts on? Actually, what I was gonna say is I agree with Ray. Thank you for the link because the Seahorse source or sorry Seahorse.org link is very good as far as tank mates rates them 1 to 3. I think right.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So
I didn't catch what you were saying at the end.
they rate them 1 to 3, right?
1 to 4, I think.
One to
Oh,
four, I think
sorry.
it is. Yeah.
So you can. Dan always says your
Or maybe
risk.
it's 0 to 3. I don't know. There are four levels, but
Yeah. Yeah. I
uh,
think you're right,
I
Ray.
think there's a 0 level
Yes.
and then the 1.
It's
And 0 is
basically
safe, but 1 you have to think about.
it's basically your risk tolerance level, which means
Yeah.
if your seahorses, like if you paid a lot for them or you really love them and they're magical to you and they're your special little friends, I don't know how to say it, but if you really care about your seahorses, they're your babies, like they were to me. I don't put
That's it.
anything with
Yeah.
them. If you want to tank with seahorses and they're just a part of the equation and you don't care as much, nothing wrong with that. That's how you feel about what you purchase for your tank. That's none of my business. But if you feel that way, then you might want to try to mix them with different fish. But the seahorseorg.guide is a good way to kind of like gauge where you're at in that level. So
And that's also, you got to be careful with your choices though. Like again, not picking on reef keepers. I keep a reef tank now. I don't have seahorses anymore. I moved and don't have the space for them.
traitor.
But
Just kidding.
everyone says you need a blenny. No, don't get a blenny. Seahorses have skin cells that encourage algal growth for camouflage in the wild.
Yes.
And your blenny might look like it's all cute eating the algae off your seahorse, but he will start biting your seahorse. On the Aussie Seahorse group that I'm admin on, one of our members had half a dozen seahorses mysteriously be killed and seahorse safe blenny, and it was only when he set up hidden cameras that he actually caught the blenny in the act. So don't believe some people. Find someone that's done it for years and that you do trust. And if you really do love your seahorses, like Kelly says, I'd keep it to seahorses.
Ray made the point too earlier about a starfish, and I think that I don't know the species of the starfish that was in Chris's tank, so I'm not at all saying that that's any part of his problem because that was a big starfish. But when you get the Asternia, is that how you say it? Asterina? I'm not sure.
Asterina,
Yeah, those
Well, the big
guys.
thing with the big starfishes, the knobby ones are the worst.
Oh, really?
When the seahorse is in its rest period at night,
yeah,
things can crawl on them like urchins and
bristle
starfish.
worms.
They can crawl on them and start feeding on them.
Based
I've
on what
had
Sam was
bristle
saying.
worms attack seahorse's tail while it was hitched at night.
Now, why did the bristleworm attack?
Yeah. It was a
Why?
massive bristleworm.
What I'm saying
Why?
is, like, I've always heard of seahorses having trouble with bristleworms because they try to snick them, and then they get the spines in their mouth and throat, or snout and
No,
throat.
this was a bristleworm about 5 inches long that I hadn't picked up in the live rock that I started my tank with. And I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and taken a look in my tank like I always did, and it's there eating the tail of my seahorse.
Oh my
So,
gosh!
that came out
I've
very
never heard of
quickly with
that.
scissors. But oh well, that, believe me, I saw it with my own eyes. But and bristleworms will also attack small sleeping fish if they're rather big. There's so many different species of them. You really don't know what it is and with how big it is. So that's why people nowadays prefer to go with artificial rock rather than live rock, because you're bringing in so many things you don't know what they are.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I believe you. I can't. That's crazy. But I definitely believe Sam always. She tells the truth. So watch out for major 5 foot long
I
bristle
might have
worms.
that seahorse dried out somewhere if you want me to dig it out of my cupboard and take
No,
photos.
no. We'll just all say beware bristleworms as bottom line. If you
Yeah.
have them in your tank and they're small, don't freak out, but maybe try to remove them. But I mean, if you got a huge one, beware of that story right there. And back to what we were talking about mixing fish in with seahorses. I saw Holly's question about mixing pipefish in, and because pipefish are part of the same family as seahorses or genus or however you say it, because they actually share some of the same um, immunity issues. And so, again, it's just like mixing a seahorse species with another seahorse species. If they're if either one of them's wild caught, or if they're different species, period, you're just looking at probably more trouble. So I know people that have mixed pipe fishing with seahorses, no problem. You're better off if you get captive bred seahorses and captive bred pipefish. But again, I'm the wrong one to ask because I just don't do it. Any other thoughts on pipefish, guys?
Love them in my reef tank. Never put one in a seahorse tank. But
Well,
that's me.
did you have anything to add as to why not?
Because you're right, they're another signathid, so they have the same food source. They have a lot of the same traits. They move a lot faster. They will spook the seahorses. It's like sticking another pair of mandarin fish in there. If your seahorses are snacking on pods, forget it. They're all going to disappear really quickly. They are aesthetically beautiful. I know Elisa breeds both, and if I was going to do it, they'd have to both come from the same facility and be captive bred, or both be wild caught. And because I've had wild caught, I once put a wild caught pipefish in my tank, and it came from the LFS very ill and died the next day after erratically swimming around my tank. It had some sort of weird attack. I've got no idea. I've never seen anything like it. But that put me off seahorses in my seahorse tank because my seahorses were too precious to risk, basically, even though they were wild caught.
Gotcha. And Dylan's Little Hobbies also said you've been keeping freshwater for 5 years and you're nervous about saltwater. Well, what I think's awesome is if you seriously do your seahorse tank first and come here and let us help you set it up and, etc., you're going to do much better. And then doing a reef tank down the line is different, but you'll have the experience with testing and stuff. Because I personally think they're equally as hard. I had a freshwater Planet discus tank that was really much harder than my seahorse tanks. With seahorses, you just need to get healthy specimens to start off with, captive bred, of course. You need to set the tank up right based on the PDF that I will link when we're done from Seahorse Sources Group. And I mean, that's it. Join the group and ask any questions if you have problems. But with captive bred, they're just not that hard. Like the problems Chris is having with feeding his seahorses, you won't have that with captive bred. So, anyways, that's my thought on that. And what other questions did I miss, guys? We were so concentrated that. But Dylan's Little Hobbies, I'm so excited. I hope you come in and show us as you set it up. That'll be awesome. And I'll read your comments later about what you're doing. I think Lucy's here too. Hello, Lucy. Woo! Who's in the stream? Tonight it was just an open chat, so
Lucy's the girl.
Lucy.
Lucy's the one for training Erectus to eat. Hey, she's the wild caught Erectus girl.
So
I
Lucy,
wish
where
she
the
was
heck
here
were
before when
you?
Chris was.
We needed you
Yeah.
earlier. But
Absolutely.
hey, we're going to come back next week, Lucy, and I'll probably do a post to try to help Chris out. Thank you, Holly, for bringing in someone new to ask questions. And Lucy, I'll tag you if I do a post, but next week I'd love for you to share weaning seahorses that aren't eating, might be wild caught, onto frozen mysis, because I know you have some absolutely excellent tricks. Sam helped, Ray helped, everybody helped, but yeah, we want to make sure Chris succeeds because he's doing his best and he's doing a great job. So I think I covered all the questions, and of course we'll
I
be
have a
back next
question.
week. Go ahead, Ray.
Lucy says, I'm in 144px as my connection is ultra low. What is 144px?
I think she's talking her internet. She tries to join every
No,
week. She tries to join every week, and obviously my internet's having trouble too. Don't feel bad, Lucy. That's why everybody's going what and freezing is because my internet's. I'm believe me, I'm calling the company tomorrow to find out what's going on. So sorry for all the freezes, guys, but I am gonna call it. It's almost 10 o'clock, and I think we had a great show. Thank you guys so much for coming. And next week we'll pick this up, and whatever topic we decide on, we'll cover that too. So, Sam, I'm so glad you joined.
yeah, nice to be here.
And okay, all right, you guys say bye, and I'm gonna say
Okay, good
cheers.
night all.
Thanks, Holly.
See you next week.
All right, cheers,
Sure.
everyone. Happy Wine Wednesday.